The person accused of killing 5 people inside Club Q began shooting almost immediately upon entering that building. New court document unsealed tonight also says the suspect had an AR-15 and wore a tactical vest. 9 News reporter Cole Sullivan shows us the details of the case investigators started building just minutes after the shooting.
Investigators say this photo shows suspect Anderson Aldridge arriving at Club Q. Within a minute, they say the suspect walked inside and started shooting. The newly unsealed arrest affidavit says officers later overheard the suspect apologize and tell medical staff it had been 4 days since they had slept. The document details the tragedy, 5 dead, more than a dozen wounded, but also heroism, including Army vet Richard Fierro fighting back. It says he got a handgun away from the suspect. The affidavit doesn't give a motive for why the suspect did this, but prosecutors might not need it to prove hate crime charges, says 9 News legal analyst Scott Robinson.
In this case, the fact that this was a well-known club that had a specific clientele might very well suffice in and of itself to have a jury determine whether these are bias-motivated hate crimes.
The documents say the Club Q owner told police his staff had training for this type of situation. They were supposed to move customers into an adjoining club next door. Police say the crime scene likely stretched through both businesses. The affidavit says the suspect's mom told police they were supposed to go to a movie together at 10 o'clock that night. Instead, she said the accused shooter left on an errand and never returned. Robinson says this document won't detail all the evidence, but there's not much he sees for the suspect's defense lawyers to work with.
There's absolutely nothing in the arrest warrant affidavit that would tend to create any kind of defense for the conduct of the alleged shooter at Club Q.
We know law enforcement have been warned about the suspect before. Tomorrow, a judge will hear arguments on whether to release details of an arrest involving the suspect last year. Prosecutors dropped that case, but have not said why.
We certainly had a lot of questions surrounding that since the very beginning, and then we see over 300 counts for this incredible day. Now we're starting to understand a little more of what happened inside.
It's a long judicial process, especially with as many counts and as many victims in this case, and it's going to stretch for another few weeks and months.
We'll be talking about it for a while. Cool, thank you. The suspect was on the FBI's radar a day before being arrested in 2021. Agents closed that case just weeks later. The FBI says it got a tip about the suspect in June 2021, a day before the suspect was accused of threatening to kill family members. It was previously thought the suspect only became known to authorities because of those threats made June 18th. The FBI did not explain the nature of this tip that came earlier. Sealed documents given to the Associated Press say on June 18th, the suspect's grandparents ran from their home, telling police the suspect was building a bomb and threatening to become, quote, the next mass killer. The FBI says it did an assessment based on the tip and coordinated with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, but closed that assessment when the Sheriff's Office decided to pursue state-level charges. Those charges were dropped for unknown reasons, triggering a state law that requires cases be sealed. Also, NBC News is now reporting the FBI is asking new questions about websites the suspect created, including one where people could make anonymous racist and anti-Semitic posts. Today in Colorado Springs, Daniel Aston was remembered as a loving and loyal family member, an honorable young man, and really a kid at heart. Daniel was shot and killed more than 2 weeks ago during the attack on Club Q. He was a bartender and an entertainer at the club, the self-proclaimed master of silly business. Daniel moved to Colorado Springs from Oklahoma just 2 years ago. Friends and family said he loved the outdoors. He was passionate about music and poetry. Today, Shove Chapel on the campus of Colorado College was packed with mourners and filled with love.
Daniel had such a heart for helping others and championing others. And I think the best way that we can continue that legacy, that heart, that love is that we continue to champion each other.
So even when he was grown, Daniel was such a kid at heart that he was never too busy or too grown or too important to sit down and look at Pokemon cards for an hour.
Today's memorial service was the last of the services for the 5 people killed during the Club Q attack. Today, healthcare workers at Denver Health joined physicians across the country and held a moment of silence for victims of gun violence.
Together, we stand and create a moment to acknowledge the effects on our community with a moment of silence. Today, we choose to be silent for 5 minutes to honor all victims of gun violence.
Survivors of gun violence and families who lost loved ones in mass shootings shared their stories. Today in D.C., doctors urged lawmakers to treat mass shootings as a public health crisis. They also want a federal assault weapons ban.
Tonight, the city of Denver is activating its Emergency Operations Center to assist a group of migrants that arrived Tuesday morning. We're still gathering information on how that group, about 100 people, got here. It does not appear that they were trafficked to Denver or coerced. The city says it's helping 110 migrants at an emergency shelter set up yesterday. A nonprofit leader working with the migrants told us they're primarily from Venezuela and that they did intend to come to Denver. Many of the migrants told service providers with the Denver Rescue Mission that they got to Union Station this week, then ended up at the Rescue Mission at some point on Tuesday. There wasn't enough room at the Rescue Mission, so the city converted a rec center into an emergency shelter. Myra Horace-Denise, the executive director of Centro Humanitario, says migrants told her they left Venezuela looking for a better life.
All of them say, we just need an opportunity to start working and providing. We don't want to be a burden. And tell us, please, what do we have to do? These are young people who want an opportunity to start over, to feel safe.
Juarez-Denise says many in the group told her that their last stop had been El Paso, Texas. There's a private organization in El Paso that's bussed migrants out of that city and to Denver. Previously, that was done in coordination with the city of Denver. We haven't been able to get in contact with the nonprofit today, and Denver says it had no heads up about this latest group arriving. The Department of Justice is appealing a federal judge's ruling that blocks Title 42. That Trump-era pandemic policy allows the U.S. to turn away thousands of migrants at the southern border. The Biden administration has relied on it to slow the increase in migration at the border and wants to keep Title 42 in place. More than 1 million migrants have been expelled under that rule. Without it in place, all migrants arrested at the border must be processed under immigration law. With a sick kid in the back seat, there's a mom in Firestone who had to call nearly 20 pharmacies to find the drug she needed for her daughter's double ear infection, amoxicillin.
It's a nightmare. 9 News reporter Jennifer Meckles shows us these hoops the mom had to jump through just to get a hold of pretty basic medicine.
Whether it was COVID or just the crud.
Yeah, she just had a runny nose, a cough, fever, headache, the works.
4-year-old Zayla Schott came down with something gross last week.
Just was not getting better, and Tylenol, Motrin, some kids' cold medicine, it wasn't cutting it anymore, so.
Mom Aslan knew it was time to call in the professionals.
Took her to the pediatrician and had a double ear infection. He recommended amoxicillin, and he told me there is a shortage on it. So he did give me a paper prescription, so that way I could hop around to pharmacy. And
for the next few hours,
called my pharmacy first here in Firestone, and they were out. Called the King Soopers, they were out.
Aslan called pharmacy after pharmacy.
And then I called the Safeway in Firestone, they were out.
Amoxicillin, a commonly used antibiotic, is now in short supply across the U.S.
Called the Walmart on 136, they were out.
The FDA lists amoxicillin on its drug shortage list, and manufacturers point to increased demand for the drug as the primary reason why.
I don't know. I called my mom too, and I almost broke down crying. I'm like, Mom, this is crazy. I don't know what to do.
18 pharmacy calls later, Aslan finally found amoxicillin at a Sam's Club.
I asked them if they can hold it, but she's like, without the prescription, we can't. And I was like, oh my God, so I just sped down there. The liquid gold.
As if a sick kid isn't stressful enough.
Yeah, you expect to go to the doctor and get something to feel better, and then when that's not a resource available, it was really scary.
Aslan told me this really could have been a lot easier if these pharmacy companies could have just pointed her to one of their locations that had the drug in stock rather than her calling a billion Walgreens or King Soopers on her own. But she did. She was also sick around this time, too, making everything harder. Everybody's feeling better now, and Zayla actually celebrated her 5th birthday this week.
That's good to hear. I mean, amoxicillin and this other stuff are wonderful drugs. You get them in the kid, they turn around right away. But that's so scary. We just kind of went through that at our house, too, and you cross your fingers that you're able to get what they need.
Yeah, and you just kind of got to go into like power mom mode at that point, right? You don't really have a choice. So she's exhausted, but they made it through.
That's good to hear. Jenny, thank you. There's a possibility that some employees at a hospital in Leadville will not get paid this week. St. Vincent Health's board of directors said at a meeting tonight that as of now, they don't have the money to make payroll on Friday. The hospital's board of directors called a special meeting tonight. Director said the hospital was expecting a cash advance in early December, but the money has not come in.
But you can't promise when we will be paid next. So you can't make a promise that we'll be paid. So does that still apply?
We can't tonight. We can't tonight.
You can't.
I can't ask you to work if you're not getting paid. You know, that's a decision you'll have to make for yourself.
Much of the meeting was spent debating whether employees should be told to work or if they can go collect unemployment. There are no decisions made tonight. The board plans to meet tomorrow. We reached out to them for more information this evening and haven't heard back.